All right. So let's start with your introduction. So can you introduce yourself, name, age, pronoun, sexuality?
My name's Winter. I'm 26. I am bi and I go by he, him.
So what was the exact story of how you came out to your friends and family?
Well, I mean, the very first person I came out to was my mom. And I mean, it wasn't really something I planned. It just kind of happened. Like, I had been dating Cookie at the time for a few months and I wanted to come out because I felt that dating a guy and everything was pretty awkward, like trying to hide it and stuff. So I wanted to come out. And just one night I was just kind of like sitting there on the couch with my mom watching TV, and we were just talking about normal stuff. And then I just told her like, there's something I need to tell you. And I like hesitated a lot when I was gonna tell her, and so she was like getting worried and stuff. And then like eventually I just told her like, hey, I'm bi. And when I don't know why I was so worried to tell her, because when I told her, like, she just wondered why I hadn't told her sooner, and that she just wanted me to know that I could tell her anything. And basically she just gave me a hug, and I pretty much just broke down crying, and so did she. And she was super supportive when I told her. So, I mean, I was really glad about that, you know. As for the friends part, didn't have any.
How old were you when you realized who you were and what made you realize it?
Uh, I mean, I didn't exactly realize, but I guess the first time that I started noticing, I was like maybe 14 at the time, and I had just started going to an all boys secondary school, and it was the very first time I ever had a crush on a guy who was in my class, and it was super weird for me initially because like I had crushes on girls in the past and stuff, but this was the first time I ever felt that way about a guy. Like I would just think about him all the time and like, want to be with him, I guess. And so that made me start. I mean, initially I just thought I was gay. Like for a long time, I was like, yeah, I think I might be gay. And then for another little while after that, I was like, no, I think that was a weird phase. I think I'm actually straight. And then it was, I think I was maybe 17 or 18 when I eventually realized, oh, I'm actually both of those things. I'm bi.
Who was the first person you came out to, and why exactly did you choose that person?
Well, like I said earlier, the first person I ever came out to was my mom. And I guess the reason I came out to her was, well, for one, it just felt like the right time, if that makes sense. We were just sitting there talking, and it just felt like I just had this feeling in my gut, like now is the time to say it. But also, I just knew that she always supported like being gay and stuff like that. Like I know that back before I was born, when things weren't so great in Ireland for gay people, she would always support gay people, and she would always try to like convince other people that there's nothing wrong with being gay and stuff like that. So I guess I just felt more comfortable with her than anyone else. And also I've always been really close with her, so we've always had a really tight relationship. So I just felt that I could tell her. Just felt comfortable, felt right.
All right. So it's her fucking fault. All
That's what she gets
right.
for trying to convince people not to be homophobic. She gets a gay son.
What would you say was the most challenging part of your coming out journey?
Oh, that's really easy. That was definitely having to tell my dad. That was by far the hardest part of the whole thing. Like, after I told my mom, I told my brother and sister pretty much immediately afterwards. I think the very same night I told her. I even told my cousin, who I was pretty close with at the time. I even told him before I told my dad. I was pretty worried about telling him because he was always not exactly the most open about stuff like that. Let's just say that. But also, I should add on to that when I did eventually tell him, he actually was super supportive. So I was worried for nothing.
Right.
Well, I mean, he would just react negatively anytime he saw a guy on TV that was in any way effeminate. Like he would just be like, "Oh, look at him floating around. Oh, that guy thinks he's a woman or whatever, like stuff like that." And so that made it a really big fear of mine having to tell him because I thought that I don't know, I thought he was gonna hate me or something when I told him, but he really didn't. I mean, his reaction was pretty funny though, because when I told him, I didn't actually straight up tell him. I was just like, "Oh, uh, my friend Cookie? Yeah, he's not my friend. He's my boyfriend." And he was like, "You're not gay, are you?" And I was like, "Technically, no. I'm bi." And he was like, "What's that?" And I had to explain it to him.
All right. So, Winter, you're a femboy, right?
I am.
All right. So, did you tell anyone that you were a femboy? And if so, how did they react? Like, family-wise. Did you tell any of your family that you were a femboy, or did you wear any femboy clothes around the house?
Yeah. My whole family knows. I mean, my brother and sister were like just instantly super supportive about it, and my mom, like, I basically how I told my mom was I put on my skirt and thigh highs and everything one night, and I literally just walked out into the living room. I was a little bit drunk, like I'm gonna be honest, I was a little bit drunk. And I walked out into the living room, and my mom was sitting there, and her reaction was like, "Oh, those look really good on you. When did you get those? I don't remember you getting those." So, she was pretty supportive about it. Meanwhile, my dad is like supportive about it now, and he's like fine with it. But at the time, he was like, when the first time he saw me, he was like, "What the hell are you wearing?"
All right.
My mom's reaction was actually funny too because she literally said to me, "Why can't I get your sister to wear things like this? She'd look so good in these things." My sister's always been like a tomboy, so refuses to wear skirts and stuff. And my mom was like, "Wow, you look really great in those." It made me feel really good.
So, in your experiences, how exactly has your life changed since coming out?
Uh, well, I mean, it's kind of changed pretty significantly because um, had I not come out, I wouldn't be here in the US right now. I wouldn't have gotten married to Cookie, and I wouldn't have met any of you guys either. So my life has changed significantly because of that. Like I genuinely feel if I hadn't, none of this would have been possible. So I feel like my entire life, as it stands right now, is due to the fact that I was able to work up the courage to come out. I feel if I hadn't, there's no way Cookie could have came to visit me in Ireland, and then I probably wouldn't have came over here, and I wouldn't be here right now, and probably wouldn't know you or anyone else. So it's definitely changed a lot. But